Assalamu alaikum.
I think I was one of the last people who entered the airplane.
911, what's your emergency?
A house, a car, and live a good life. Like you would have never imagined back home.
So I'm like stressed out, just like listening to your story right now.
Whatever skill you have, I think you can monetize it over here.
That's a sad
Interesting
thing.
That's a sad thing.
I'm here in the studio with Akhmed from Kyrgyzstan. Welcome to the show and thank you so much for visiting me today. This is the first time, actually maybe the second time, yes, because I interviewed a guy from Uzbekistan. We're exploring Central Asia.
Okay.
So before we dive into Central Asia and take an imaginary trip back to your home country, let's talk a little bit about your background, how you moved to the US and why. So share a little bit about yourself.
Okay, all right. First of all, thank you for welcoming me and inviting me to this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
About my background, wow, it's a long story. For me, as a person, like in Kyrgyzstan, most of the young people who have some ambitions in, studying and anything in that terms, they want to go to it abroad because in my country there are a few good universities, but like also people want to travel a little bit, explore the world, see how it is in other countries and so on. And everybody growing up have a dream of traveling the world. I mean, not even from my country, I think every person has a dream like that. And for me it was the same. And then when I was studying, I was actually, after my high school, I studied about 1 year in a local university. It was, I think, one of the best universities in my country. But, I didn't really want to stay in my country to study. And I was like, okay, I want to go to the US, but it's very expensive. How can I do it?
Where in Kyrgyzstan were you born?
Well, I'm from a village, actually, not very far away from the capital city. It's like 1 hour drive, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. It's called Alexandrovka.
Alexandrovka?
Yeah. It's a very Russian type of name.
Yeah, very Russian, yes.
Because we are like post-Soviet Union country and we have a lot of influence, even nowadays. But yeah, anyways, I'm basically from Bishkek, I can say, because that's easier for people to understand. Because how can I explain where Alexandrovka is,
Yes, yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. And you were born and raised in Alexandrovka?
Yes.
And then till how old were you when you realized that you don't like it anymore?
Well, it's not that I don't like it. I actually love it. But I wanted to see other places as well. I didn't want to spend my whole life there and not see the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
But the thing with me is a little different than any other student because after 6th grade, I kind of went to a boarding school and I had to stay there like during the whole week. I stay in the dormitory on campus kind of. And then we study from the morning till we have classes from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. or so. And then we have, evening, and that's how basically my weeks were, my days were in middle school and high school. And after that, I went to the university. I studied a little bit, and I was like, okay, I don't want to stay here. Actually, I wanted to go to Turkey, but then I graduated in 2016, I think. And in that year, I applied for 6 or so universities in Turkey, and I got admitted in a lot of universities. And I wanted to go there. But in August, the time when I was supposed to go there, they had this type of military conflict or whatever inside the country. I don't know if you remember that. It was a big thing.
In 2016?
I think so, yeah.
See, that was the year we moved here.
Okay, I guess you were busy with other...
Yes, I wouldn't remember that, no.
But anyways, yeah, they had a big conflict where they had helicopters bombing their White Houses. It was crazy. So I changed my mind and I stayed in my country for a year and I was studying. And then I was like, okay, what do I do? The money is always a big concern when you're thinking about going to US.
Yes.
And I was trying to find a way how I can do it for a cheaper, not spend that much money. And I found a program, which is American transfer program, basically, in Malaysia. So
Okay.
for me, that was perfect because I would see 2 countries
Yeah.
during my bachelor's.
Yes.
And not spend too much money too. And then, yeah, I studied in Malaysia for like almost 2 years. I think I've been there. And that's when I kind of improved my English as well. And then I transferred here. And that's another reason, like for all the people who want to study in the US, I think I would recommend either not go to bachelor's right away. I think master's is a more reasonable thing to study in the US than bachelor's, honestly,
Really?
for me. Yeah, because it's cheaper, it's faster. You have,
Masters is?
yeah.
I've never heard anybody say that
And
before.
on masters, you can get like, not scholarships, but like funding easier than bachelor's.
I thought that's
a
for
lot of places.
bachelors. And then for masters, you pay yourself because it's not like.
No, for me, actually, I don't pay for my master's. I'm doing master's right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think for doctorate, it's even like, it's harder to get in,
Yeah.
but it's easier to get the funding.
Interesting. I've
Yeah.
never heard that before.
Because for doctorate, like most of the people who do a doctorate, they study for free. Like a lot higher
interesting.
percentage than bachelors.
Okay. So you were how old when you started moving towards your American dream, I guess?
Whoa. Well, I don't really know what American dream is, but I think for me, it was kind of like maybe fulfilling some of my, ambitions or whatever. I had dreams about America when I was watching movies, like Hollywood movies, I think. But back then it was just a dream. It wasn't
classical representation of the American dream.
Yeah.
Yes, the big giant house like in Home Alone with
Yeah.
12 bedrooms
Yeah.
and 2 giant garages and
Yeah.
17 cars.
And when you watch movies about Wall Street or about like Hollywood, all those
Yes,
things, you're
of
like,
course.
okay, I want to do that too. But when you come, it's not exactly like that.
No,
for
it's churches
most of the people.
everywhere
Yeah.
and like fields and squirrels and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had the same exact view of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like when I was still a child, but like conscious. When I started taking conscious steps towards this, I think it was maybe when I graduated from high school. It was a little late, and that's what I gave my little brothers advices about, pre-planning everything ahead of time because I didn't. But yeah, I started thinking it like maybe last year of high school. I don't know.
So you landed in Malaysia first,
Yeah.
and it was all part of the U.S. travel program or U.S. exchange transfer
Yeah,
program. Okay,
so, yeah.
So from Malaysia, you were there for 2 years, and then you went to U.S.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where in the U.S. did you land, and what did you see first? What were your expectations?
Well, my expectations. I knew it's not a big city.
Where did you land?
Here in Springfield.
In
Well, I
Springfield.
didn't land in Springfield, but that was my first city where I went out and, saw the US. But I landed, I had a transfer, or transit. Yeah. Transit or transfer. I don't know. In Chicago.
Okay.
And that was a big airport for me as well. And I had to, I didn't have like, I don't remember what it was, but I think it was like 1 hour transit. And I had to figure out which direction I go. And I had to claim my luggage and then recheck in or whatever. It was a little bit in rush, and then I had food in my luggage, and then they stopped me and started opening every luggage and then checking what I have in it, and it's all packed, and they started opening each bag. I'm like, come on, this is my flight is like in 30 minutes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, can you just take it and check it later? I don't care about food, let me go and catch my flight. And they're like, if you rush us, we're not gonna let you go for the whole day.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'll just stand here and wait.
Yes, yeah.
But then I was running. I had to catch I caught the last bus, I think, from terminal. Like, I don't remember the exact terminals, but let's say from terminal A to terminal B, and it was like, it's like have you been in Chicago?
Never
Airport?
been to Chicago. I've been to Washington, D.C.
Okay, Chicago Airport is like they have several different terminals, and they're kind of far away from each other. You have to take the shuttle or like something like that. And it was the last bus that I caught.
That's so stressful. I'm like stressed out just like listening to your story right now.
And it was the last bus that I caught. And then when I arrived to the, I don't know, like the tunnel when you go to the plane, the worker, the employee there said, don't worry, catch your breath, you made it. I'm like, okay, that's good.
Yes.
I think I was one of the last people who entered the airplane.
And they still told you, don't worry. And I feel like that's like the perfect representation of Americans too. Like they're never like stressed. They're always like, relax. Even like,
it's fine.
Yes. Even today I had my windshield broken as I was driving here to this interview. Yes. And it was somebody driving right in front of me. And we called 911 before this interview. I know, this is crazy. And even on 911 call, they were like, 911, what's your emergency? You know, like very relaxed, very like, I feel like that's a good thing too, because you don't want to stress out and like, 911, what's your emergency? Tell me. You know, so that's better. But I feel like that's their approach for their lifestyle in general, very relaxed. Even if it's the last plane, even if you're the last in the plane, still relax, take your breath, everything is going to be okay. Very American approach. What were your first impressions of Americans and life here in America when you finally made it to Springfield, Missouri?
Well, when I arrived here and I got out of the plane, I was shocked by the airport first, because it was like no control at all. Like you just walk out and there's nothing happening. Like it's so quiet, no people, you know. I'm like, where am I?
In Springfield Airport? Yeah.
It was just people from my plane and nobody else.
I think very small.
And it was late night one too.
And everyone was tired. They were like, just
there was a
bring the
university.
drugs.
There was a university representative who like I had to, you know, fill a form to meet me at the airport and so on. He took me. For me, I was excited about the US, so I was all positive, you know, whatever happens, I have this, you know, good mood.
Even if I go to prison for you checking my bags, I'm still gonna love it here.
I was like, okay, I see, so far I just see the fields, but I love it.
What about some challenges that you have faced? Did you face any obstacles along your, you know, way of moving here to the US?
As I said, it was a several stage thing. I guess the main part was, for me, it's always risky and a little bit hard to get visas. It's always money issue, you know. Also, you know, about the first time when you apply and you're not that confident in your English and abilities, you know, you're worried about all these things. And the first time you apply to the university to apply the visa and everything, you're not familiar with nothing basically. And you have to study and learn and do whatever you learn right now. You learn it 1 hour ago and you're doing right now after that. And other obstacles since I came here or before, like on the way?
Just throughout your early days in America.
Okay. Yeah, I actually had a lot of things. Well, see, for me, one of the things was food.
Oh, really?
For
American food?
Yeah, because I don't eat a lot of things.
You're like a picky eater?
I have a diet, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a Muslim, so I have like halal diet. And for me, that's like at the beginning, I didn't know anybody here. I just came. I didn't know exactly which, like, you know, the dorms here, they assign you rooms and stuff like that. You don't know who you're gonna live with and all that. Yeah, for me, I didn't know about where the mosque is, for example, or where I can get halal food and all that. And I didn't have a car.
So it's also transportation.
Yeah, because here in Springfield, if you want to get something, you better have a car.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the bus, you can wait for like really long.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember once I went to the Battlefield Mall from MSU, and then on the way back, we had to wait for like, I don't remember how long, but it was a group of us. That's good. But we had to wait for like more than 30 minutes, I think. We were thinking about going like some other way, you know.
Yeah, so it was food, it was transportation and language barrier.
Yes, I think so. And also, for me, the problem of adaptation wasn't as hard because, you know, I had to study. I've been on my own for a while. So I was like, whatever,
so
I'll
you're
just
used
learn.
To being alone.
And I'm used to not knowing what I'm doing.
Okay. Same.
Yeah. And so these are the main things, I guess, that I had to face. Also, you know, I didn't like the dorm. And then I figured out how to move out. And then I found some friends who helped me. You know, I found friends who to spend time with also. And then I found you know, where to get the food and maybe groceries and stuff like that.
So you were able to overcome.
2 months, I think, when I was in the US, because if you live in the dorm, you have to get the meal subscription along with it.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm paying for it. I'll go there. Why would I, you know, buy and cook my own on my own if I can go and eat there? Basically, not for free, but kind of for free because it's included.
Yes.
So I was just eating French fries, cheese pizzas, and salads for like 2 months straight. I was sick of it.
It sounds healthy.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was sick of it. And yeah, that was a big thing for me.
So you were an MSU, is that correct? You were an MSU student.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were here on a student visa, it sounds like, right? You were
still.
You are still on a student visa.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are my third student visa guest here on the show.
Okay.
And I am actually very curious to find out, how do you maintain connections with your Kyrgyzstan, you know, holidays and traditions? You mentioned a little bit about being, you know, Muslim religion.
Yeah.
And how do you maintain that here in Springfield?
Yeah, for me, we do have like Kyrgyzstani specific holidays. I mean, I don't think this is Kyrgyzstan specific. Maybe it's a Turkic thing or like Central Asian thing. But there are celebrations that we have in Kyrgyzstan that I don't really celebrate. Like for me, I celebrate more religion-based, you know, holidays. Yeah.
What about your family? How did they react to your decision to get out of your homeland and move your life to the US?
My family actually, they were very supportive. They had nothing against it. And also when I was, the funny part is when I was leaving the country, I was thinking I'll go for 2 semesters and then I'll come back, you know, while I still have my visa valid, you know. But then COVID hit. I think the second semester I was in the US, and then I just had no opportunity to going back for like a long time. But then I almost graduated. I'm like, okay, let me graduate and then go home. And then after that, I started working and I'm like, okay, I'll work a little bit. You know, it got longer and longer.
Yes.
But yeah, at the beginning when I was telling them about this idea, they were like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Do they want to move to America eventually?
I don't really think so. Maybe my little brothers, they have the ambitions coming here to study. Actually, my littlest brother, he's in high school still, but he has very high standards, like
and high expectations.
Yeah, he wants to, you know, come to like top 20, top 10 university, you know, study there. I know it's hard, but like hopefully he'll make it. But yeah, so he has the dream coming here. But other than him, I don't really think my parents or anybody want to come here.
And since you are on a student visa here, you're not a resident, you don't have a green card quite yet. So you still have an option to go back to your homeland and live there.
Yes.
I mean, I do too.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a U.S. citizen at this point. But do you plan to stay here in America? I feel like 90% of people who listen to my podcast about, you know, people with a student visa, they always wonder, is she planning to stay here? Does she hate it here? Does she just want American education and then come back home? You know, like what's the goal?
Yeah. For me, again, it's a little different, I think, than everybody else, because I know a lot of people come here, you know, to stay. And I know also a lot of people, you know, who come here maybe on whatever visa and then they try to, you know, apply for the green card or whatever. And there are not, I think I'm one of the few students who decided, you know, to stay and finish and then go for masters, you know.
Yes.
There are people like that.
Yes.
But if you can't see the ratio, it's not that many people who decided to study. But for me, I actually want to study, and I don't think I will stay here for long. I think I will stay here for a while to maybe, I don't know, I at least have my OPT for 3 years after graduation, you know. But I'm not even sure if I'm going to stay a whole 3 years. So I'm not even talking about getting H-1B or like green card or whatever. Even the OPT, years. I'm not sure if I'm going to complete those 3 years here.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying project management right now.
Okay.
My bachelor's was logistics and supply chain management. My minor was finance. Yeah.
See, I feel like you would be a very successful businessman here in America if you were to stay.
Yes, I think I would have some chances, and I have some ideas and like ambitions too about, you know, doing something here. But it's also about paperwork wise, you know, a little bit, giving some constraints. But there are options, like obviously if you do business, you have like business investor visa or whatever, and you can work in the business, you can get visa as well. But for me at the beginning, I want to work in, I prefer to work in American companies, like, you know, where I want to see how the culture is and everything. And I already had some experience because after bachelor's, I worked in a logistics company here in Springfield.
Okay.
Wilson Logistics, maybe you know.
Yeah, I do.
I worked there as an analyst, so I'm a little bit into analytics as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
See, this is very interesting because you have a unique story. So you are a student here and you're not attached to anything here quite yet.
Yeah.
You're not employed, you know, full time. You're just a student here. So like I said before, you have an option to go back if you're starting to hate it here. So that's why I always like to ask guests like that about American dream, because people who immigrate here, like me, we don't have a choice. We have to love the American dream. But people like you can be honest about your opinion. If you want to go back to your homeland, if you truly think that your homeland and your home country is better than America, and you can be honest. I mean, I can say that too, but I mean, I live here. So of course, my American dream opinion is a little different than yours. What do you think of that concept?
I think it depends from person to person, because the country is, for example, if I live in Kyrgyzstan, some people struggle in Kyrgyzstan. I don't. My family doesn't struggle in Kyrgyzstan, for example, as much maybe as other families. Obviously, we're not millionaires or whatever. Otherwise, I would have went to, you know, more expensive options, you know.
You would have stayed there.
Maybe that, but for me, I don't have the necessity of staying here. I can go back home. And especially now when I have, you know, my bachelor's and I'm gonna soon have my master's from the US. US degrees back home is valued
very valuable.
Yeah, very valuable. Yeah. And even if I can go in any third countries as well, like work there, I have that option. So I have all these options open for me right now. It's up to me basically. But for other people, I think who, you know, really struggle, let's say back home, for those people coming to US and, you know, chasing their American dream, I think that's worth 100% of everything they sacrifice or give up. Because here in the US, you have all the opportunities to achieve what you want to achieve, as long as you have the, you know, discipline and, you know, you're willing to work, you're not lazy. You know, put a little bit of effort. You don't have to have a big corporation. You can do something small. You can find a job. Like jobs here are getting paid. Like, I know a lot of people argue about this, but compared to what back home salaries are, here life is a lot better.
Oh yes,
and
absolutely.
You're never gonna be left with no money. You can make money basically on any corner. And I don't know, like maybe not everybody sees it that way, but that's how I see it. And I think for people like that, it's worth coming and chasing American dream. For me, American dream is more like fulfilling my own, you know, basically fulfilling myself, or like achieving
proving something to yourself. And trying to not waste my potential. Fulfilling my potential. I think that's how it is. So does it exist here in America still? The American dream?
I think so, I think so,
For everyone?
I think so, because I feel like the country is full of opportunities, as I said already. You can come with nothing and you can get a work, you can get an education if you want to, because there are lots of funding, sources of funding. You can get a house, a car, and live a good life. Like, you would have never imagined back home. And I think whatever people say about the US, it's still the strongest and biggest economy in the world, and with strongest military, with like they have so much everything.
Yes,
and it's
absolutely.
a huge country too. There's a place for everyone. Everyone can find a spot to live, and what they want to do.
And if you had to say an advice to another immigrant or somebody who is planning to immigrate here from Kyrgyzstan, what would you advise them?
Maybe to have a plan. Maybe to have a plan, like to have a skill, to develop a skill. I think in the US, if you have a skill, any skill, it can be, I don't know, like an electrician, it can be, you can be an accountant, like whatever skill you have, and then learn English. And if you have these two things, I think you can achieve a lot in the US. And if you are like a videographer, if you're like whatever skill you have, I think you can monetize it over here.
That's actually so true. This is why I do this podcast.
It can be hard, actually. It can be hard, especially at the beginning when you start. A lot of people, have to get a job they don't like, but it's getting paid very well still.
Yes.
And a lot of people back in their countries, they still have to do this job that they don't like, but they're not getting paid very well. So it's true. A good trade-off,
That's true. I'm here in the studio with Akhmed from Kyrgyzstan, and we just finished diving into your journey. So now it's time to travel back to your homeland. When was the last time you were home, by the way?
I've been back home actually not long ago.
Okay.
I came back to US in January.
Okay.
So after my bachelor's, all this trip and everything, I went back home.
But also, as a student here in the US, you have ability to go there on the summer break.
Yes, but for me, and I know for many other countries, like Uzbekistan or like some even African countries, like I know Sudan back then, I don't know about now because they have conflicts over there, but there are lots of countries who have visas for like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year or so, or whatever. And from Kyrgyzstan, student visas always they approve it for 1 year only. So if you go home after the expiration date, you have to renew it, and you have to take that risk again, basically.
Yes.
They might refuse, and then what do? You're in the middle of the degree, you have to maybe do it online now, but back then maybe you didn't even have the option to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
so you used to go every year, or was it your first time ever since you landed here in America?
No, I haven't been home for 4 years, I think, and then I went back home last year.
What was it like for you to see your homeland again after living here in America?
Well, there have been changes, especially in my village. The roads, the infrastructure. And
were you
everything.
Impressed?
Even the people, because there have been a lot of changes in those 4 years that I haven't been back home. And there was COVID, and I wasn't back home. Well, I wasn't with my family, and they had to go through some tough things too. And that was the hardest part, I think, for me, because I mean, in the US, it was hard. I know a lot of cases, but at least here you have the support of the hospitals, of the government, and so on.
And you're right next to your family member.
Yeah, and you are next to your family member. I didn't worry about myself because I'm fine. I'm young. I know I do sports a lot, so I'm pretty healthy. Once I started cooking myself, I kind of moved away from the French fries and pizzas, but it was hard for me.
So you were impressed the last time you went to Kyrgyzstan with the things you saw?
Yeah, I was impressed by the progress as the country or the place. But the place was different for me because people have changed. It's a lot of people died. A lot of people get married. A lot of people have children. That I have nephews. I had a nephew that I never saw in my life, basically back then. But now I saw already because I went back home. Yeah, that was a big. I miss the home the biggest when there's something happening and I'm not there.
Yeah, it's
But
crazy
anyways,
to think about that.
Yeah, I had to go back home and I had to, catch up with all these
Yes,
things.
yes.
Okay, these things changed, and then there are new people. I had to introduce myself and try to build some connection. And there was.
Yes, yeah,
and
it's almost
I really had to. I was thinking I wouldn't cry, but when I arrived and I landed,
yes, you were very emotional.
It was just it wasn't like automatic. I couldn't control it.
Yes. I feel like when you move here, your life kind of stops back in that country.
Yes.
And the time stops there, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So to me, even when I do video calls with my family back in Russia and I see like my cousin so grown up and he's 20 years old. And so now he's like a mature man. And I'm like, oh my God, who are you? Why do you have a beard? That's just crazy. So let's talk a little bit about your homeland now. Yeah. What makes Kyrgyzstan a unique destination for travelers compared to other Central Asian countries?
Oh, like that. Okay. I thought in the world, but okay, other Central Asian countries. First, I think is the mountains, because we have Tian Shan, and I don't know the exact number, but it's like 90% of my country are in our mountains.
Beautiful.
And I know in Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan, they have more like field area. They don't have
more
as
flat.
many mountains. Yeah. In my country, any place you go, you will see a mountain. Like it's always on the horizon. Yeah, that's one thing. It's good for people who like skiing, let's say, or like maybe like
rock climbing.
Rock climbing, yeah, rock climbing. And that's good because of the mountains. But also there are a lot of people actually go from the US to my country to go rock climb.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there have been a lot of people who died there too, because rock climbing, is dangerous. I don't know why people do that. I don't do it.
So American people know Kyrgyzstan for rock climbing. That's like the main.
That's one
thing.
of the things. Yeah, I've actually met some people from here, like in Springfield, that've been in my country and been in the same places where I used to,
really
visit and grow up.
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, exactly. I was so surprised, and it's not one person. There are like
multiple
few
people.
of them, yeah. And they're Americans. They're like born and raised here in Springfield. I'm like, okay, probably
there's something special about your country.
Yeah. And another thing that attracts a lot of tourists, not from the US, but from some other neighboring countries, is the lake Issyk-Kul. I don't know if you have...
Issyk-Kul, конечно, of course.
Yeah. And because my country, I think, anything is cheap, like living expenses, food, transportation, everything is cheap comparatively to even to Russia. I think it's cheaper a lot.
Yeah, I actually don't know the prices in Russia now. I haven't been there in a very long time, and I bet everything is skyrocketed. Yeah. Everything is a lot more expensive.
Yeah. But in my country, even though inflation and everything, and actually inflation is good if you're making money in the US,
Yeah, the currency exchange is going to be pretty great. Yes. I was going to ask you about that. How accessible it is to travel to Kyrgyzstan if you live in America? What is the currency exchange?
I think you would enjoy living there. If your source of income is in the US, you would enjoy going to my country. Yeah, you can do pretty much everything you want.
Yes.
Because let's say, give me some. Let's say, what can we compare? Apartments.
Yeah, let's say rent, transportation, and just like lunch, one lunch.
Yeah, let's say for transportation, like public transportation in Kyrgyzstan is, I think, very cheap. Like if you go, let's say the same distance as from here to like Chicago, it's like 6-hour drive, right? You go on a cab, and it would cost you like $10 or like $15.
Which is insane.
It's impossible here.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Here you go from like 10 minutes away, it's going to be $10.
Yes, probably going to be more than that.
So that's number one. And if you take, that's the cap. If you take like buses or like, it's going to be $2 probably. If you, let's talk about the rent. The rent of 1-bedroom apartment here in Springfield, not in like big
Yeah,
city.
like not in New York.
Yeah,
but
like in New York or
compared to
Chicago or
that.
LA or whatever.
Yes.
I think here it's about what,
900,
900, yeah, 800, 900, maybe more.
Yeah.
Even.
Some apartments are like 1,500, but those
Yeah.
are like super fancy and cool.
Yeah. Let's say 900
Yes, yeah.
average. It's a one-bedroom apartment. In my country, one-bedroom apartment, $200-300.
Really?
Yeah. I think like that, 300 probably.
And is that like a nice apartment or
It's an average
just like
one.
an average
It's not
one?
a nice one.
Okay.
Nice one would be, it can reach to 1K, you know. But
And what about lunch for 2 people?
one thing I wanted to mention is electricity.
Uh-huh.
I have calculated it actually because, you know, I have to actually pay bills too. And I have compared the electricity per kilowatt here and there. Whatever here cost me $50, back in home it would have been $5.
That's insane.
That's the difference.
Yes.
Like,
So if you want to travel to Kyrgyzstan, basically do it because you will be you will have the best vacation ever.
yeah, and the lunch, I think it's cheap too. If you're in the capital city and you are going to a fancy restaurant, it can get expensive.
Like how expensive? Like $50 for 2 or $20 for 2?
No, expensive. I mean, it can get expensive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it can go up to $100-200, even more. I think, depending on if you have a big company. But for two people, I think it would reach $150 easy.
But that's if you want to eat like
a
lobster.
fancier place. Not even lobster. It's lobster or like a steak.
Yes.
You can get a steak, same steak, but
Yes.
like different place. It's gonna be like less than $5. But in
And it will still be good. Like you won't die.
it will still be awesome actually.
Yes.
But average place, I think you can get full with $3, $4. Like for example, a burger, it costs what, $2 or so, and it's better than McDonald's burger.
yes, absolutely. It's healthier probably too. What about
And,
some must-visit attractions in Kyrgyzstan? Can you name some locations that everyone should visit when they travel to Kyrgyzstan?
Regarding city, which is, I think you probably will land in Bishkek because that's where the international airport, the biggest one, is located. You will want to visit. I think there are obviously there are museums if you want to visit those. We have like mountains, 40 minutes drive from the city, so there are a lot of like not resorts, but like little places where you can visit. You can go there, ride the horses and stuff. It's actually very popular for tourists. They go there and they ride horses, and it's cheap. It's like super cheap, and you can live up the mountains in yurtas. And I actually wanted to show you yurtas as well. And live a kind of Kyrgyz nomad type of life. And a lot of people actually enjoy that, especially coming from the US,
Yes, yeah, it's
or
very
any Western
exotic
country.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you should probably do. Another thing, you can visit some of the markets.
Oh yeah.
That's a big thing, I think, for tourists,
like
especially.
farmer market?
No, it's not a farmer market. Like there are two big markets in Bishkek. One is called Dordoy. One is called Oshsky. Osh Bazar. Oshsky Rynek.
Ah, bazaar.
Yes.
Oh, of course, yes. Yeah. That is the best place for a cultural shock.
Yeah, you will see a lot there. You will see all type of people doing all type of things.
Yes.
But those two, I think Dordoy is like the biggest merchandise market in Central Asia or something. It's a big market. You're gonna get tired. You cannot. I don't think you can visit every shop there. It's impossible. You can just walk through the aisles, kind of like not aisles, but like streets or whatever, and you might not finish in a day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a big market.
It's like Universal Studios here in America.
Yes, kind of. And for the Orsky, you can buy all the souvenirs and everything, over there. Food, if you want to try like some cheap food, authentic, Kyrgyzstani food, and like you can find everything there.
Speaking of food, what is the main dish in Kyrgyzstan everyone should try?
Probably the most popular one is beshbarmak.
Oh, of
Have you heard of
course.
that?
Yes,
Okay.
from the kitchen series, from Kuchnia.
Among food is probably beshbarmak. That's the interesting part about that is it's made with horse meat, which for I don't know for you, but for a lot of people in the US or in like when I was in Malaysia or any other foreigner here, even my international friends, they're like, what? They're like, you eat horses?
Yes.
But we do, yeah. Because it's a nomad nation, basically. And back then they had lots of horses. Mainly they used to raise horse. And that also was part of their diet. Yeah. And
so try horse meat.
yeah, and it's super good. And horse milk as well. Which
horse
is,
milk.
Yeah. There's one fermented kind of, it's called kumus. And there's like normal, типа как парное, normal milk. And there's even kumuzalechenie, where you go up the mountains, you live there, you drink horse milk like every day. Every day, and it kind of cleans your organism, and then you come back, you're fresh. And
Interesting.
You're clean. Yeah, it kind of detoxation or whatever.
What about language barrier in Kyrgyzstan? Do you have to know a little bit of Kyrgyz language in order to Russian language maybe in order to communicate there with people, or does Kyrgyzstan speaks English?
If you know Russian, that would be enough. If you know Kyrgyz, that would be enough too. Any one of these. But Kyrgyz language is probably better because if you want to go to more rural areas. But English, I think nowadays is getting more popular. And in the capital city, I think you will meet a lot of people who know English. But it's not like 90% or whatever. It's maybe 30% in the capital city. In other areas, it's probably a little less. But still, even in my village, they have like these English courses and like a lot of people go there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to know a little bit of Russian or Kyrgyz language or Google Translator.
Or you just have a guide. I think that's the best option.
That's true.
If you have a guide, actually, they have options like you can go there and hire a guy who's going to be with you basically for your whole trip. Or
and
whatever.
It won't be expensive.
It won't be too much. Yeah, it won't be too much, and it's also safer. They know.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not safe to do whatever you want over there and go wherever you want.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So usually on this podcast, I ask my guests to teach me a little bit of their native language. Can you teach me a little bit of Kyrgyz language?
Actually, my native language is not Kyrgyz.
What is it?
My native language is Dungan.
Dungan.
Have you
even
ever?
Better.
Or
No.
Huizu.
No, I never even heard of a language
Dungan.
like that.
That's two names that I know of. So I think that would be more interesting.
Yes, yeah. Teach me how to just say hello, how are you?
Okay, first of all, my language kind of has similarities with Chinese, Mandarin, or whatever.
Okay.
It's maybe one of the dialects.
Okay.
It will be similar. So you know
okay,
what to expect.
I'm prepared.
For example, what do you want to say?
Hello, how are you?
Okay, for hello, we usually either use Chinese option, like version, or we actually often use Assalamu alaikum, which is
well, I know
Arabic.
that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Or salam.
Salam.
Salam is basically what we also say. Yeah, salam, assalamu alaikum, or whatever like that. And then if you want to ask how are you, you can say ni zamgusa.
Ni zamgusa.
Yeah.
Ni zamgusa, assalamu alaikum.
Or let's say you can say ni homa.
Ni homa.
Yeah, which is more closer to Chinese.
Yeah, ni hao. Yeah, I know that one. Interesting.
Ni homa.
Ni homa.
Yeah, and actually, my ethnic language. If you go to China and meet some people from my ethnic group, their language would be very close to Chinese. But for us who lived in Soviet Union and then in Kyrgyzstan, it changed.
The dialect.
It changed a bit, yeah, and our pronunciation is not the same anymore. Yeah.
Interesting. I never knew about that tie in cultures between China and Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's actually not a big number, but Dungan people have maybe 100,000 or so in Kyrgyzstan. Yeah.
Interesting.
And there are even Dungan people in Russia, but they're not a lot.
Well, of course. Not.
Yeah.
Yes. What about some interesting traditions to witness in Kyrgyzstan? Is there a specific time of year that people should look into going to your homeland?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think we have anything like Japanese sakura, whatever, or like I don't even know in the U.S. Is there anything in the U.S. like
4th of July?
4th of July.
That would be like the most unique holiday in America.
Well, for us, the biggest probably is either Nowruz. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a kind of like a celebration of spring.
Okay.
And it's celebrated. You have all the streets decorated. You have all the people, out of work doing whatever. They have special meals cooked for that day because you have to cook. It's like a soup type of thing, and you have to spend like long time to cook it. It's I think more than a day, like more than 24 hours, maybe 3 days. I don't know. Anybody who is interested, they can Google it and search, see the pictures and how colorful it is. But that's probably the biggest.
So no,
if you don't count, it's
on March 21st.
Yeah, maybe you want to go in March. Actually, that's a good time to visit.
Is it hot? I was going to ask you about the climate in Kyrgyzstan. You mentioned a little bit about the winter activities that a lot of tourists are being attracted to, but also like during spring, how is the weather?
During spring, I think that's the best actually, if you don't have allergies.
Oh, okay.
It's similar to Springfield actually. Springfield weather for winter, I think, is more like windy. In my country, it's not that windy because of the mountains.
Yes.
And then in summertime, it's very hot as well. The only big difference I would say between weather here in Springfield and back in my country is I think here is more humid in summertime. It's more humid. In my country, it's not as humid, but it can get hotter. And
what is the best way of transportation in Kyrgyzstan? Is it the taxi? Is it bus? Horses?
No, I'm kidding.
I was actually going to say that. Yes.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of true, depending on where you are.
Really? You can ride a horse
for example,
some places?
I went to a different, like a rural area when I was back home, a different region even, like a different state in the US. And there we got into a traffic of animals, basically. It's a road, we are on the car, and then we're just stuck there. Because we are just surrounded with like, I don't know.
You should have hopped on a horse.
Yeah, thousands of like horses. And I'm like, okay.
Looks like my homeland.
Yeah, that's how it is. So depending on where you are, actually a horse can be a good option. But
really?
Mainly cars, mainly cars. We don't, railroads, not really a good option. There are
like trains.
Yeah, there are trains from, I think, Bishkek to Isykyl. But even that's probably the best one you can go and take it. If you want to take a train in Kyrgyzstan, take one from Bishkek to Isykyl. But other than that, use cars. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about people who live in Kyrgyzstan. How do they feel about tourists? And, specifically American tourists, since we're in this country right now. If someone American were to come to Kyrgyzstan for the first time, they don't speak Kyrgyz language.
Yeah.
They don't speak Russian. They just speak English and they have dollars. How are they going to be treated by Kyrgyz people?
Well, it's funny because I think there are two groups of people. There are people who don't like tourists. There are people who do like tourists. But most of the people, I think they do like tourists.
Because of the dollars.
Yeah, because of what you can, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to have a good guide.
Yes, that's true. So you're not going to take advantage of.
Yeah. And I think most of the people would treat you and try to give you whatever you want. Like whatever you want, they will try to organize it. They will try to satisfy you. And there are very rarely people who actually, try to. Usually these are people who are not interested. Let's say you go to a touristic place. There are some other native, not, I don't know, Kyrgyzstani people who don't care about tourists, right? They don't have a business, they don't work in that industry or whatever. They don't really care. They're just like, they can start a conflict. It's often, especially when they're drunk, you know.
Oh, well, yeah. It's a bad time to approach someone when they're drunk.
I think this problem can appear in any country. But I had a friend, actually, it's an interesting story. I have a friend who went to US, he went to Kyrgyzstan to travel. And he said, he went to Istanbul. And, you know, Istanbul is a touristic place. They have, you know, you're on a lake, you're relaxing, you're trying to relax. A lot of people drink, right? That's not good, but that's how it is.
Yes.
And he said while he was there, during the first day, he had 3 conflicts with 3 different guys.
Oh my God.
And he said it's very good that he had a guide who was like an Olympian or something in wrestling. I don't know how he got that guy. I don't think that's easy.
So he was protecting him physically?
Yeah.
Did it got to like a physical fight?
Yeah, he physically was pushing him.
Oh
the
my
other guy.
gosh.
And then his guide would come and talk to that guy, and that guy will come and apologize.
Oh my gosh.
That's why you want to have a good guide.
So what is the etiquette to follow in Kyrgyzstan then? If you don't want to have a guide, or if you're with the guide, but you still are being approached kind of rude
Yeah, I guess you will
something?
get approached sometimes with regardless what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just be prepared.
Yeah,
Don't have like any personal
try
feelings
to avoid
attached.
people who are, I guess, who look aggressive or like don't go to the shady areas, you know, at night or whatever. It's common sense, I guess. For me, it is common sense.
Yes, well, for some people it's not. Yes. Speaking of shady areas, what are some lesser known gems and destinations that tourists often overlook and they should visit if they go to Kyrgyzstan?
Oh, there are a lot, especially even only in Istanbul, you can find a lot of good places to visit. I think usually tourists, even many local people don't go to those places, maybe once in a lifetime, because, you know, they're far and sometimes you have to like hike there. But there are like waterfalls in the mountains, for example, or there's actually a lake. This one is easy, I think, to get to, and it's beautiful too. I think people should visit. It's called Kyrgyz. I think that's how it's called. It's called Kyrgyz. It's a very light blue kind of, but a little bit greenish colored lake up in the mountains. You have to hike there.
Turquoise.
What's
Turquoise. That? Turquoise is Biruzovo, yes.
Yeah, that's the name. And I think that's one of the places people should visit. I even want to visit there, that place. I haven't been there actually, but my family and my friends, they all been there. I'm just stupid, I guess. I don't know. It's not opportunity.
Well, maybe next time. Next time you go back to Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah,
yes. And before we step into a break, what is something that everyone should bring with them after their travel is over in Kyrgyzstan, whether it's an item or an experience?
For the item, I think one of the things that you could take with you, and which is not very, but more specific to our region, which is a hat.
Yes, I've seen those.
It's called a kalpak. It's a white, not pointy, but like a tall hat with ornaments on them.
Absolutely beautiful, by the way.
They're made out of wool, I think, or how to call it, wool felt or whatever.
I think that's correct, because I also don't know.
Yeah, and they're supposed to, you know, be very functional. Like they don't let the heat get to your head, and cold also kind of.
So it's a hat.
Yeah, you can wear it winter or summer, and it's I think it's okay with water as well. If it's raining, you can still wear it. It's not going to
Welcome back. You're listening and watching the American Dream podcast. This half of the podcast, I always tell people to stop listening to us on Spotify and check out our YouTube, the American Dream podcast. Just look that up in the search bar and you can find the video format of this podcast where you can see the items that my guests bring from their homeland, which are always so unique and so exotic for me to look at. So, Akhmed, thank you for visiting me today. You're from Kyrgyzstan, and we mentioned a little bit about the hats and foods that, you know, kind of describe your country best and people should try when they're going back to your homeland. But what are the items that you brought with you here to Springfield? Did you bring any with you when you were moving here?
When I was moving here, I think one thing that you usually take is the flag of the country.
Of course,
for international students,
yes.
You know. And for Kyrgyzstani students, I think another thing is probably the hat. We have mentioned shortly about it.
Yes.
It's called kalpak or akkalpak, which is white hat. Yeah, those are two things that's probably I brought with me. But also one thing that I can say is always with me is the food. So
of course.
So I don't have to bring it.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so the flag, let's start with that. Where is it placed? In your dorm? Is it still in your suitcase?
It used to be on my wall. But now it's in my bag. It's in my suitcase. Yeah. Because
how big is the flag? Is it?
Yeah, it's bigger than that thing. I
really?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe like the size of this table.
Yeah, kind of until
here.
Here from.
Yeah. Okay.
That size. Yeah, kalpak is just.
And
a hat. It's easy.
It's a hat, but it's also a very tall hat.
Yeah, it's kind of tall. It's like maybe it can. By the way, it depends.
Yeah.
Kalpak, I think, depending on the color and the height, different people with different status wear them. So it's not just a hat. Like if you wear this type of hat, it means maybe you're celebrating this thing or you are this status of person.
Interesting. Do you still wear it?
Rarely.
Yeah. When was the last time you wore it and why?
Actually, last time I wore it was back in my country.
Oh, okay.
Because since I just recently visited my country and it was my friend's wedding. People do wear it on the weddings.
Interesting. So, we'll put a picture up on the screen. So like I said, make sure you check out our YouTube to see the items we are talking about right now. Okay, so it's a hat, it's a flag. And what's the next item?
And one more item, as I said, is food.
Yes.
This thing is called beshbarmak. It's you can make it out of any type of meat, I guess. But the traditional way to make it is with a horse meat and smoked horse meat.
I was going to ask you, where do you find horse meat in Springfield, Missouri?
Well, that's the thing. Here, I cook it not with the horse meat, but back home, usually you do it. And it's good in winter times because horse meat heats your body. Like, it kind of increases your temperature a little bit, I guess.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You feel warmer.
Okay. I never knew that. I've never had horse meat, so I don't know.
If you keep eating it in summertime, I think that's not the best thing to do. Yeah, but anyways, there's a thing called chuchuk. Also, it's part of the meal.
Okay.
Part of the dish, and it's oh my god, this is a little bit hard. It's horse meat and fat stuffed in a. Yeah, it's basically like a horse sausage.
Okay.
That's also, it's very delicious, by the way. And the
the way you described it, I'm gonna be honest, doesn't sound very delicious.
That's right.
Horse insides, stuffed, made into a sausage.
Yeah. And it's the more fat in it is considered better. But for me,
not in America.
Yeah. For me, it's not the exact same. For me, I prefer 50-50. Like if above 50% is meat, above 50% is the fat. Yeah, and that is served as well with beshbarmak. Okay,
so it's flag, it's hat, beshbarmak.
Yeah.
And what is the other item?
I don't think these are, I mean, it's an item, but it's not something that I brought with me, which reminds me of my home country usually. There are a few things actually that I want to mention that are not items.
Okay.
One of the things is yurta.
Yes.
Yeah, yurta is like a tent, but not a tent. It's a huge, heavy way of camping, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's made out of wood and wool again. And I have a picture. I don't know if you have seen yurtas ever.
I have in books, I'm pretty sure. So
yes,
like
that
this.
one.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it's made without a single nail. That's the original way of making it.
How does it hang
with
like
no
that?
nails? It's with the dried skin of animals or whatever. You
Okay.
tie the woods together and then you put everything. So there's no nails or anything.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And the inside of it also looks
Yeah.
like a bunch of carpets here.
Yeah, those are wool, made out of wool too, the carpets.
Wow.
Yeah, because
very
it's a
colorful.
nomad nation. They used to, move from one place to other places.
That's true.
Very often. And this yurta is supposed to be very easily constructed. Or how can I say?
So it is kind of like a tent for people to move
like
from one
a
place to
woman
another.
should be able to build it in 2 hours.
Wow.
So
Have you ever tried building it?
no, I haven't.
Okay. Okay.
And if it's a big one, it's probably hard.
Yes.
But if it's a smaller sized, like for a small family, I guess, it should be easier. And it has a tunduk on top of it in the middle. It's originally it was made for ventilation.
Oh,
basically.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So yurta.
Yeah, that's
Anything-
another thing that.
Any other items?
One more thing very unique for my country, not for my country only, but it's one of the unique things, is snow leopard. That's the sign of my city, actually, Bishkek. It's on the. I think there are snow leopards only in few countries, which is China, my country.
Oh. Sorry, I saw the baby snow
Yeah.
leopard. I was like, immediately, they're
China,
so cute.
my country, and maybe Afghanistan or somewhere. There are not a lot of places where these animal live. So it's another thing that, like if I see a snow
Mongolia,
leopard.
China, Afghanistan,
Yeah.
Pakistan, India, and Nepal, and even southern Russia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but it's not, and their population is very small. I think there are less than 10,000 in the world. So they are in, what is it called? Red
Danger?
Book. Yeah, they're in danger.
Yes. Krasная kniga.
Krasная kniga, yeah.
Translate
Red
that.
Book, I don't know. Yeah, and there are a sign of my city. That's why when I see them, I think of back. I think of my home.
Okay, so it's the snow leopard that I had no idea. Apparently, you can find in Russia too.
Yeah.
And they are in danger.
And they're beautiful too.
They are super cute.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll put a picture up.
You cannot
over here.
hunt them, but
Yes, but you can look at them. So what is the last item?
And one more thing that I wanted to mention is a game, actually.
Okay.
It's called Kokburu.
Kukburu.
Yeah, it's Kirk.
Kirk Buru.
Yeah,
I will never
it's a
be able
little
to
hard, yeah.
pronounce it. Kirk
because
Buru.
there's a letter which is like O, but it's not O, it's Ö. But anyways, it's a game I think very. It portrays our nation, I think.
Okay.
Because you ride on horses. You have two teams. Ride on horses, and then you have a sheep that's already slaughtered, and then you have to. The goal is to bring that sheep to a huge bowl in the middle of the field. So you have to hit each other, and you have to have a very strong horse and a good control of that horse, and you have to be very strong yourself. Because you have to, the sheep is on the ground. You have to hold it and raise it with your hand and one hand usually. So that's a very interesting thing. That's a sad thing. Well, for us, it's fun thing.
Yes, yeah. See, cultural difference. If I were to see that, I would probably cry.
For us, slaughtering animals and eating animals, I'm sorry for all the people who are vegans and vegetarians. It's just part of our life. So, yeah. We play games with that sheep,
with
basically.
dead animals. Yes, yeah. Anyways, well, that
which
was
everybody should Google and check it out. I think it's gonna be a shocking thing for you all.
Yes, yeah.
And interesting.
Don't eat before you Google that. Well, thank you so much, Akhmed, for visiting me today. It was a pleasure meeting you and getting to know your story and even the sad game that you mentioned. I'm going to go cry now.
I should have mentioned this at the middle or at the beginning, I guess.
That's true. So thank you so much for visiting me. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for having me too.
Thanks for tuning in to the American Dream Podcast. For more episodes, subscribe on your favorite platform. Keep dreaming and see you next time.